Custom football boots are a privilege that's typically only reserved for professional footballers. But today, you can actually get a pair that's designed exactly to the specifications of your feet. And today, I've got my hands on a pair of the BioCleats from PreVolve Footwear. Through a process of foot scanning and 3D printing, this company can send you a fully customized pair of boots in just 2 weeks. But while these boots are pretty innovative, they're also quite expensive, coming in at over double the price of other high-end models. So in this video, I'm going to talk about what makes these boots stand out and whether or not you should actually consider them. So to kick things off, let's start with the design. So the first thing that you should know about the design of these boots is that everything about them is customized based on the shape of your foot. And for that reason, after you place your order, you need to go through a custom foot scanning process. Now, if you live in the United States like me, you can go to most shoe stores near you and they're going to offer you this for free. And then after you get your results, you're just going to send them over to PreVolve so they can get to work making your boots. And then once they get your results, they're just going to confirm your sizing with a couple fit sheets and then you're pretty much good to go. And in my case, I had my boots delivered from start to finish in just under 2 weeks, which is pretty impressive for a fully customized football boot. But how exactly do they go about making this boot? So every part of this model, from the upper all the way to the sole plate, is going to be 3D printed. And 3D printing is a really cool technology that you don't often see utilized when it comes to football boots. And that's partially because it can be relatively expensive and time consuming compared to other manufacturing methods. But on the plus side, it allows them to make a customizable, unique, and one-of-a-kind product with every single order. The only downside from a customization standpoint is that you are limited to the choice of just 2 colors. You can either go with this black or a white variation. And when it comes to the design of this boot, the shape is by far my favorite feature. And for me, that's mostly because the width of the toe box that you get here is just going to be so much wider than almost any other boot that's on the market. And just for comparison, I have the Mizuno Morelia 2 here, which is a pretty wide-fitting football boot, but in comparison, you can see that it's much more narrow compared to the PreVolves here. And for me, that's really important because most players, including myself, are going to have feet that are widest at the toe box. And having a toe box that doesn't crush your feet together is really important, not just for comfort, but also just improving your overall performance. Now, I think some bigger brands are starting to realize the importance of having a slightly wider toe box. For example, I think New Balance is doing a pretty good job making more anatomical shaped football boots. But in reality, I think a lot of other brands have quite a ways to go in terms of making a football boot that actually has a shape that resembles what your foot looks like. So in terms of the overall shape and form of the boots, this is where the BioCleats really excel. Now, when it comes to the upper here, you're going to have a 3D printed, really sticky material all throughout. And it's also relatively thin, helping these boots come in at just about 257 grams. Now, on most football boots, I tend to prefer a leather upper or a knit textile upper, so I'm not really used to having something this sticky when I'm dribbling or shooting the ball, but it is nice to get that slight extra added grip that you get from an upper like this. Now, the lacing system is going to have this U-throat construction with a tongue that's made of the same material as the upper. And because the tongue and the upper are both so sticky, it does make it a little bit challenging to adjust the lacing system here when you're taking the boots on and off. Then towards the heel of the boot, you're actually going to get a really nice layer of cushion padding that's really comfortable and going to help prevent blisters while you're playing. Now, the BioCleats are going to ship with insoles included, and there's also a slot where you can add attachments for giving you slightly more arch support. Now, personally, while playing in these boots, I decided not to use the insoles because I found I got a slightly better fit without them. But whether or not you want to use the insoles is going to depend on how much arch support you're looking for. Flipping over to the back of these boots, the sole plate is definitely going to be another highlight. Now, the sole plate is really the foundation of how these boots are going to fit, and look at how much space you get throughout the toe box here, and the distribution of the studs is also amazing. Now, when you order these boots, you're going to have the option for an AG, FG, or SG stud configuration. And since I mostly play on artificial grass, obviously I went with the AG studs. And with that configuration, you're going to get over 20 short to medium length conical studs that are distributed really well throughout both the heel and the midfoot area. Now, while this sole plate is 3D printed, it actually feels surprisingly durable. And one thing I really like is just between the heel and the midfoot area, you see these ridges that were implemented towards the middle of the boot. I think that they make it a lot easier for the boots to bend here in the middle of the boot without experiencing any deformations in the material. And I do really like that you are going to get that bend in the middle of the boot because it's going to help when you're running or walking and your feet are pronating. The boots are going to be moving with your feet instead of resisting against them. But towards the top of the boot, you are still going to get a slight added snap. So they're a good balance of being aggressive, but also minimalist and allowing your foot to bend in the boots. And then as a really nice touch, on the outside of the boots, you're gonna have these external heel counters where they also can put your initials when you order the boots. So now that we've covered the design, let's talk about the fit and feel. So the first sensation that I got when I tried on these boots was that they fit very, very close. And what I mean by that is that there's almost no space between the edge of your toes and the end of these boots. And after all, that does make sense because these boots are custom designed off of my own measurements. Now, usually with most football boots, I actually prefer having around half a centimeter of space at the front of the boots. And that's because the toe boxes can oftentimes be quite narrow, and if my toes were at the end of the boots, then my pinky toe would be getting squished. But since the BioCleats here are so wide, I don't have that problem at all, and I still feel like my toes are able to spread out in the boots. So while the fit is very close, it's not cramped in any way. And honestly, from a custom pair of boots, I think that's exactly the kind of fit that you'd be looking for. Now, as I mentioned before, I actually preferred wearing the boots without any insole just because I didn't really feel the need for any added arch support. And they definitely did take a second to get on just because it took a while to adjust that lacing system, and the inner heel liner is very sticky. But once you do get them on your feet, because the fit is so close and that inner lining is really adhesive, they feel really locked in. I also could definitely feel the slight padding around the heel, and it definitely made for a more comfortable fit. And getting these on feet was just a really cool experience because I've never worn custom football boots before. That being said, I have worn barefoot shoes before, and I have a pair here that I want to show you. These are from a company called Tolos. And as you can see, they also have a very, very wide anatomically shaped toe box. So I think what PreVolve is going for here is they're giving you a similarly shaped wide toe box in a slightly more snug and performance-oriented package. So from these, you can get the comfort that you would expect from a barefoot shoe, but you're gonna get the performance that you need from an actual football boot. And overall, I felt that the fit was both comfortable, but more importantly, very precise. And next up, what were these boots like to play in? Now, knowing that these boots are produced with 3D printing, I was curious about what the durability was going to be like. And from that standpoint, I actually found these boots really impressive. After juggling, dribbling, and taking hard shots for well over an hour, I didn't have any durability concerns around the upper or the sole plate. And speaking of that, the upper and the sole plate just seem really well adhered to each other and just very well glued together. So I could definitely see these lasting well over a season. And then as I mentioned, the upper is going to be very, very sticky. So in terms of the touch on the ball, it's going to give you something pretty similar to the Phantom GX2 from Nike. And honestly, I'm typically used to football boots that have more of a matte finish to the upper that's not quite as grippy, so it did take a little bit of getting used to. But once you do get used to it, it is nice because you can get a little bit more added spin on your shots. And since the upper is roughly a millimeter thin, you're also going to be getting a really close touch on the ball. Now, I don't feel that it's quite as thin as the Vapor 15 from Nike, but you could definitely put it in that speed boot category. And then underfoot, I felt that the sole plate bended really nicely and was really comfortable on feet. And I definitely feel that having that added bend throughout the midfoot is going to help reduce any fatigue that you might get in your feet after a long session. So the BioCleats were comfortable, had a great touch on the ball, and offered more than enough traction. And I would definitely feel comfortable wearing these in any intense training scenario or match. Next up, let's talk about the value. Now, there's no other way to put it, these boots are expensive. Prices are going to start at $495, and that cost can increase depending on the size of your feet. Now, that's more than double the cost of an average high-end boot that would retail for around $250. But to be honest, I'm not really sure it's a fair comparison, because these boots are custom designed from your specifications, and a lot more time and energy is going to go into making them. They're not something that can just be grabbed off a shelf and thrown into a box. So who are actually going to be the market for these boots? Well, if you play regularly and you really struggle to find off-the-shelf boots that fit the shape of your feet, then these could definitely be an option worth considering. But that's only if you're in a situation where you have the ability to spend a few $100s on a new pair of boots. So what are my final thoughts on the BioCleats from PreVolve? These are a really cool football boot, but more importantly, it's a cool concept. Because at the end of the day, football boots should fit the shape of your feet, not the other way around. While the customization aspect of these boots is really cool, for me, what makes these boots special is the really wide and anatomical toe box, as well as the flexible sole plate. Because these are really important elements that you don't see in a lot of other mass market football boots. So I'm actually looking forward to a wider release of these boots with set sizes. And I think that's going to give players more choice, because some people are going to like a little bit of extra space towards the front of the boot, whereas some people are going to want a closer fit. Not to mention that manufacturing and selling these in set sizes sizes is going to help drastically bring the price down. But overall, these are great boots, and I'm definitely excited to see where this company goes in the future. And that is going to do it for this video. And if you've gotten the chance to try on these boots or any other custom models in the past, let me know in the comments below. Feel free to like and subscribe if you've enjoyed the content, and I will see you in the next video.